reminder that it's a real sacrifice.
Camp Pendleton mourning the loss of some of its own in yesterday's attack in Kabul.
The Cajon Valley Union School District says only one family may be left in Afghanistan. How a local congressman is helping to get them out.
The convicted assassin of Robert F. Kennedy has been granted parole, but there's still a chance he won't be getting out of prison.
Honoring all who gave some who gave all, and those still protecting us.
What are some medical conditions that can legally get you a medical exemption from the COVID vaccine?
News 8 at 6 starts right now. We are learning the identities of some of those 13 service members killed in yesterday's suicide bombing outside the Kabul airport in Afghanistan. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
And I'm Regina On. As feared, several of those service members were Camp Pendleton-based Marines, and tonight their ultimate sacrifice is being honored.
News 8's Richard Allen is live outside Camp Pendleton in Oceanside with more on those young lives lost and how they are being remembered. Richard?
And Regina and Carlo, heartbreaking news that more than a dozen families across the country are now trying to grapple with tonight. Among those killed, a young man who was just weeks away from becoming a father for the first time, whose wife is actually living here at Camp Pendleton.
We feel this like as much as any community feels it.
San Diego's strong military community feeling the pain firsthand of Thursday's suicide bombing attack in Kabul, claiming the lives of 13 U.S. service members, among them Camp Pendleton-based Riley McCullum. The 20-year-old from Wyoming and his wife are expecting their first child in just 3 weeks, according to Riley's father, who also told News 8 that we are still reeling from the news. Riley loved being in the Marines, and he was good at being a Marine. Also based out of Camp Pendleton, Kareem Nikoy, whose father told the Daily Beast that his son loved what he was doing and that he had always wanted to be a Marine. As well as Hunter Lopez from the Coachella Valley. Both of his parents are members of the Riverside Sheriff Department, which Hunter had planned to join after the military, according to Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. U.S. Marine David Lee Espinoza was also killed. The 20-year-old from Laredo, Texas, joined the military out of high school. Congressman Henry Cuellar wrote that David embodied the values of America: grit, dedication, service, and valor, adding that the brave never die. Mr. Espinoza is a hero. Also killed in the attack, 20-year-old Jared Schmitz of Missouri. U.S. Senator Josh Hawley wrote, "I promised his family that his service and his legacy will not be forgotten." Navy medic Max Soviak has also been confirmed among the casualties. The 22-year-old from Ohio was an honor student and played football at Edison High School, which said in a statement that his community is devastated by this news. The Navy issued a statement Friday on behalf of the Soviak family, describing Max as a wonderful son who loved his family, his community, and was proud to serve in the U.S. Navy.
It's something we understand in San Diego to our core.
Congressman Scott Peters said that this tragic loss of life serves as a reminder of the real sacrifices made by these service members and their loved ones.
Your service was honorable and not in vain, and we're very, very sorry that this has come.
And we have also learned the identities of 3 other Marines who were killed yesterday, including Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover, who is also based here at Camp Pendleton, originally from Utah, as well as Marine Dagan Page, 23 years old, from Omaha, Nebraska, and 23-year-old Ryan Nouse, who is from Tennessee. Carlo and Regina.
Richard, thank you. Well, defense officials say they are prepared for more attacks in Kabul one day after a suicide bombing killed more than 150 people, including those 13 service members Richard just mentioned.
The State Department says it is working with around 500 Americans in Afghanistan who want to leave ahead of the August 31st withdrawal deadline. They're also communicating with several hundred other U.S. citizens who have not decided if they want to evacuate. Skylar Henry is at the White House with the latest.
The Pentagon now says there was only one suicide bomber in Thursday's attack outside Kabul's international airport, setting off an explosion that killed 13 U.S. service members and many more Afghan civilians. The group known as ISIS-K has claimed responsibility.
We still believe there are credible threats. In fact, I'd say specific credible threats.
President Biden met with his national security team Friday ahead of his first face-to-face sit-down with Israel's new prime minister, Naftali Bennett.
evacuated more than 12,000 additional people out of the airport in the last 24 hours. We will complete the mission.
The White House says U.S. commanders updated the president on plans to develop ISIS-K targets and told him the next few days will be the most dangerous period to date for the mission in Afghanistan.
The president and the military feel they have all the authorities they need to attack ISIS-K.
Congressional Republicans have vowed to hold President Biden accountable for the chaotic U.S. withdrawal.
There will be a day of reckoning, and we have a constitutional rights.
Flags at the White House and other federal buildings will fly at half-staff until August 30th to honor the victims. Officials say the roughly 5,000 U.S. troops on the ground are taking maximum force protection measures as they continue to evacuate thousands from Kabul airport. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
And the U.S. Marine Corps confirms that 11 of the 13 U.S. service members killed Thursday were, in fact, Marines. The other 2 fallen were a Navy sailor and an Army soldier.
Sirhan Sirhan, the man who assassinated Senator Robert F. Kennedy, has been granted parole. 2 of Robert F. Kennedy's sons spoke in favor of Sirhan's release at today's parole hearing, and prosecutors declined to argue that he should stay in prison. It was the 16th time Sirhan has been up for parole and comes 53 years after Kennedy's assassination at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Sirhan is incarcerated at Donovan State Prison here in San Diego. Today's development does not guarantee his release. Governor Gavin Newsom could still reverse the decision.
Well, as the Delta variant continues to surge, San Diego County is reporting another spike in COVID cases. Today, there were more than 1,800 new cases, several hundred more than was reported just yesterday. There were also 21 new hospitalizations and 8 more deaths, raising the total count to 3,877. As for the total number of cases in the county since the start of the pandemic, it's just over 330,000.
As more companies require the COVID vaccine, a lot of people may be looking for medical exemptions to get out of taking the shot.
And under California law, employers are required to accept medical and religious vaccine exemptions.
News 8's Abby Alford takes a look at what are legitimate religious and medical conditions to get one.
Many faith leaders have come out to say that they are not endorsing any religious exemption from getting the COVID vaccine. But we wanted to take a look to see if there are any religions or medical conditions that could exempt you from getting the shot.
What we're seeing more of when we're counseling employers are requests for religious accommodations.
The Pope is encouraging vaccines, and San Diego Bishop Robert McElroy told priests to decline exemptions.
There are very few, if any, organized religions that say you should not get vaccinated.
Christian denominations that have theological objection to vaccines are Dutch Reformed congregations and, in some cases, Church of Christ scientists. We spoke to labor and employer attorney Arlene Yang.
It's a tricky situation, but employers are allowed to ask for information to understand what the religious belief is.
Now we go to infectious disease physician at Rady Children's Hospital in UC San Diego, Dr. Mark Sawyer, for the science behind medical vaccine exemptions. He says that there are not many allergies that could exempt you unless a polyethylene glycol known as PEG found in the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine.
But by allergic reaction, I'm talking anaphylaxis, which is a serious, life-threatening kind of reaction. I'm not talking about a rash.
He also says that cancer patients and autoimmune diseases such as lupus are not exempt from the COVID vaccine.
There is no vaccine ever that's been linked to worsening of your symptoms of autoimmune disease.
Heart conditions may vary. If you have multi-system inflammatory syndrome known as MIS-C in children, you too could be exempt, as well as the neurological condition called Guillain-Barré syndrome.
It's a known complication of vaccines as well as a complication of the natural infections.
Dr. Sawyer says, bottom line, vaccine benefits far outweigh the risk. The California Medical Board says any physician who grants an exemption without finding any legitimate medical reason could face disciplinary action.
Thanks, Abby. Local activists gathered in front of the county administration building this afternoon to protest the Supreme Court decision to strike down the federal eviction moratorium.
A moratorium enacted by Congress as opposed to the CDC would be shielded from the court challenge.
This was part of a national effort by the Housing Rights Campaign, Cancel the Rents. In the past few months, the organization has coordinated several protests in more than 50 cities. It should be pointed out that the local ban on evictions is still standing. Activists say they are committed to ensuring that no one is evicted from their home until the pandemic is over.
Well, turning now to a very special marker which was unveiled today at Miramar National Cemetery, one honoring the men and women who have served as members of Navy SEAL teams of late and underwater demolition teams, frogmen in World War II.
News 8's Steve Fiorina brings us more from today's dedication ceremony.
This monument honoring Navy frogmen and SEALs is the first in a national cemetery. A proud moment at Miramar. Many retired military on hand as salutes were exchanged.
Pray with me.
A moment of silence to honor the fallen. A Marine helicopter flyover with a missing man formation as another tribute. The monument was draped in black until the end of the service, as words of bravery and sacrifice were spoken.
It's about remembrance, resiliency, and rejuvenation. And while we will never forget our losses, we know our fallen would want us to be strong, continue living to the fullest, and contribute to our nation and fellow citizens in uniform and out.
Focusing on our underwater warriors.
The exploits of these service members are legendary. In the European and Pacific theaters in places like Normandy, Saipan, Peleliu, Iwo Jima, they made their mark.
Dedicated men and women, remembering the past and thinking too about the terrorist attacks this week in Kabul, Afghanistan.
Truthfully, we're doing all we can. It's a very dangerous mission getting all of those people out of there, and I think they're doing a great job.
From a personal perspective, it's very painful to watch what myself and thousands of others have fought so hard for, to go down the tubes in a couple of weeks' time. And again, I hope it doesn't reflect as poorly as it currently looks on us.
So, thoughts about today and our history.
Again, a show of hands. How many of those veterans would do the exact same thing had you had to do it all over again? Show of hands. Thanks.
And belief in doing what's right. The man who worked so hard to make the Frogmen SEALs Monument a reality.
It feels great. I mean, this is what retired guys do, right? Is you leave a legacy for those coming behind you. You'll notice my name's not on there. I could have had somebody put my name on there, but nobody's going to remember who I am 20 years later, and yet that monument will be there for centuries.
It is not the last monument that will be erected here at Miramar. Now there is planned 6 months from now honoring Navy divers. Steve Fiorina, News 8.